Today I am going to talk about grief and grieving and how grieving doesn't have to be about missing a person. Like, nobody has to die in order for you to grieve. The one thing that you can grieve your childhood. You can grieve a time that you miss. You can grieve a place that you would like to visit again or that you miss. It doesn't have to be a person. And so Monday I had an appointment with my therapist. Went really good. All my appointments for some reason go really good. She's always like, I don't even know why you come to see me. And I'm like, you know what? I come to see you because I need to. I know how to handle myself. I know how I've dealt with myself for 36 years. So I know when I'm going through something, I know how to handle myself. But it doesn't change the fact that I still need to talk to somebody. And sometimes talking to somebody that's close to you doesn't always work because you don't get the reaction or the response or even the advice that you're seeking. If you don't get the reaction or response, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you just got to stop thinking about yourself. But to get the advice that you need or something along those lines, sometimes you just gotta go and you gotta talk to somebody who is better equipped to handle those questions or give that advice or whatever. So, grieving. I grieved my childhood. So there's a lot of things that I didn't get to enjoy. There's some things that I didn't get to experience. There's some things that I just simply missed. So I grieved my childhood. I went to the Oklahoma Science Museum last Thursday on a school field trip for my oldest son, and I took my daughter with me. And on my way back, I was driving down I-44 back towards Oklahoma City, on the Tulsa route, and as I was driving back, I saw this building. It was a familiar building, and I saw the sign on the building and the sign on the street that led you towards the building, and it was the Oklahoma Cowboy Museum. And I saw that and I was like, man, I remember when we went to the Oklahoma Cowboy Museum. My stepdad took us there when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. Maybe a little bit older at that time, but not much, like 7. But we went there. I remember he was proud to take us. He was like, I wanna show y'all all the things that, I enjoyed as a kid, or things that I always dreamt of taking my kids to these places. And so it was fun. I don't remember like a lot about the place, but I remember going there and just what I remember that time. So I grieved that time a little bit on the way home. And so I don't know. Grief is strange sometimes. Sometimes it can be strange. It can look strange. It looks different to different people depending on what the circumstances are. You don't always get the same experience, and each time you go through grief, it'll look different. So you can't always expect grief to come out one way, because it won't be that way. It won't be that way every time. The reason why I decided to talk about grief is tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and although last year was the first Thanksgiving without my stepdad, this year it's a year. It's a year without him. So I'm grieving for my mom. I'm grieving for my sisters. I'm grieving for myself, because there was a lot of times that, when you're with your family, sometimes you take time for granted. You don't treat that time as though it's the last time or the only time that something's gonna happen. And that's how I treated the last time I talked to my stepdad. It was like, it's not the last time I'm going to talk to my stepdad. But it was, Wish I could get that time back. That's a time that I grieve. So, grief is a strange thing. It's a very strange thing. Anyway, moving on. So you grieve a time, you grieve a place. So for me, the Oklahoma Cowboy Museum was a place that I grieve. Tomorrow being Thanksgiving is a time that I grieve. I was listening to Hope in a Minute by Pastor Brock this morning. And he was talking about, although his message wasn't about grief, but it was about, he was talking about how his dad and his grandpa were cowboys in New Mexico. And he was talking about generations and how we don't pass down anymore what our parents passed down to us, what our parents taught us. We don't teach our kids those things anymore, Stuff is falling. We don't teach our kids those things anymore. So, like, he was talking about his dad and his granddad being cowboys. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna fit this in here. I got too much dishes in here now, and I don't know where I'm gonna put this. So I'm gonna have to rearrange some things. That's what we do in life. We rearrange things to make other things fit. That's what we do as parents. It's all about rearranging stuff to get stuff to fit where it needs to, Now, so Pastor Barack was talking about not teaching our kids or passing down things that our parents, our grandparents taught us, about passing stuff down to the next generation. So that's That's one thing. That's a manner of grief. You grieve something that was taught to you by your parent or your grandparent or whoever, whatever generation is above you. My stepdad was a cook. He was a master chef. So you want to get more? He just put it in the trash. He was a master chef. He was a pit master. Anything to do with cooking, that was his thing. He excelled at it. Now, I'm not the best cook. I can do a little bit. I can make a little here and there, whatever. But then another thing that I grieve is this is probably the blackest thing you ever hear me say. I grieve fried chicken.
I heard you.
I grieve fried chicken. Like home fried chicken. Partly, mostly because I don't want to cook it. I don't want to deal with the mess of it, flour everywhere, that's more of a lazy thing on my part, just being lazy. But that was his thing. He would fry up some chicken, some pork chops, neck bones, all sorts of stuff. I remember the house smelling like chitlins, and I hate chitlins. I remember we're just gonna go down the whole little timeline of things that I grieve, or times that I grieve. I remember my cousin once. She wanted to try some chitlins, and everybody told her, "You ain't gonna like those chitlins." She said, "Yeah, I will. Well, let me correct myself. And if you watch this, I apologize that I didn't correct myself before. So I'm gonna correct it and start over. My cousin, when we were kids, they wanted to try some chitterlings. And we told them that you ain't gonna like these chitlins. You ain't gonna like the taste of it. The smell of it alone should tell you to stay away from it, right?
Because it smells like doo-doo?
Because it smells like doo-doo. But they wanted to try it. So my stepdad fixed them a little bowl and said, "Here, if you like it, I'll get you some more." I remember we were watching some movie. I don't remember what movie we were watching, but we were watching the movie. It was on Thanksgiving night. We were watching the movie, and we were all gathered around, and I think me, them, and my other two cousins were sitting on one couch. Everybody was just scattered around. But they brought it back over there and sit down there next to me and took one bite, and it was immediate. Like as soon as the taste buds and the salivatory glands and everything got involved with that, it was like you heard it, you saw it. It was just immediate, like. And then they ran outside. They threw up. It was awesome, epic. It was like the best "I told you so" moment, right? That's gonna take a little bit longer to get that out of there. I have to let that soak for a little bit. So a lot of things that I grieve, deal with my stepdad. because he was, part of my life for 31 years. So there's a lot of stuff that I grieve, and I can't give away all my stories because a lot of them are going to be in my book. She said stop. I don't even know what y'all doing, but stop it. So a lot of the stories are going to be in my book, and I don't want to give everything away, but the stuff that's not in my book, I obviously will talk about. So it's hard. It's hard sometimes to talk about grief. Like we both. Sometimes it's hard to talk about grief because grief is a very complicated. It's a very personal thing. Like a lot of people deal with grief internally and not outwardly, and they don't want anybody else to get in the mix of their grief. No, they don't want anybody to mess with them during their grief. It's a process, and I mean it's grief is hard, but it's something that we all got to go through. And sometimes you don't think about the things that you can grieve until you're thinking about what you're grieving, like grief doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Grief isn't always a negative. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can look bad, but it's just the process of what you gotta go through. You washing your hands again? What you doing? Okay, I got you. So yeah, that's my video today. It's just if you are grieving through something, if you're going through something, if you miss something, I found that the best thing for me, which might help you, is to talk about it. Sometimes just writing it down and getting it out of your mind and onto a different canvas helps. So don't think that you got to deal with grief on your own, or that nobody will understand what you're going through, or any of that. Everybody grieves. Everybody deals with grief. The form may be different. The approach might be different. The outlook might be different, but everybody deals with it. So deal with your grief. When I say deal with your grief, I don't mean it to be a heartless, this is something that you just got to deal with, just get over yourself. I mean really, really deal with your grief. Talk to somebody. Make a video if that's what you got to do. Even if you don't show anybody the video, just make a video and put it somewhere, and just if you need to go back and look on that video, or if you have a thought and you're like, man, I really miss this. And grief isn't negative, but the feelings that come with grief can make you feel vulnerable, make you feel down. You can get sad. Sometimes you'll be happy, not really happy, but joyful, because you remember this thing that brought joy to your heart. And so grief isn't always a bad thing. The process of getting through the grief can be hard, it can be long, it can be painful. But in the end, there's joy at the other side. I'm Brian. That is an awesome looking pumpkin. And love, peace, chicken grease. Holla at your boy.
It's too hard.
It's too hard. Look at that pumpkin. Ain't that neat? Yo, I'm out.